Yelling at children may feel momentarily effective, but often causes long-term damage. Increased anxiety, decreased self-esteem, greater aggression and emotional withdrawal, damaged trust in caregivers and authority figures. Brain key insight. Yelling may stop behavior in the moment, but it doesn't build connection. It builds fear. In homes where parental alienation is present, yelling is one piece of a much larger puzzle of psychological manipulation. Other alienating behaviors include counterclockwise arrows button manipulative tactics. The tactic of repeatedly criticizing or demeaning the other parent. The tactic of withholding affection, making children feel guilty for loving or visiting the other parent. The tactic of blocking communication, hiding calls, deleting messages, or preventing visits. The tactic of false narratives, lying about abandonment or fabricating wrongdoing. The tactic of enmeshment, forcing the child into the emotional role of partner or confidant. The tactic of gaslighting, denying or distorting reality to make the child question their own memory. A narcissistic parent may appear charming and devoted in public, but hostile and undermining in private. Reward disloyalty to the other parent with love or special attention. Recruit flying monkeys, enablers, to echo their narrative. Weaponize control, loyalty, and guilt to keep the child emotionally captive. Warning, narcissistic warning sign. Love is used as a reward, and rejection of the other parent is the price. Being the targeted parent is emotionally exhausting, but you are not alone. Understanding the tactics being used against you and the psychological warfare your child is enduring is the first step in protecting their future relationship with truth and with you. Stay calm. Yelling, even in frustration, can feed the alienator's narrative. Document all communication and missed visitations. Avoid retaliating or bad-mouthing the other parent. Let facts and consistency speak louder. Support your child with compassion, not confrontation. Seek legal, therapeutic, or peer support from professionals trained in parental alienation. Final message to targeted parents. If you've made it to this point in the book, then perhaps you recognize yourself in these pages. Not in every detail, not in every chapter, but in the patterns and confusion, and in the quiet ache of being erased in the life of a child you love. You are not alone. Parental alienation is not a misunderstanding. It is not a phase. It is not the result of poor communication, or simply the byproduct of divorce. It is a calculated strategy, wielded most often by individuals with narcissistic tendencies, who seek to control not only the child but the narrative itself. And when truth becomes negotiable, those who cling to it are cast as difficult. Or worse, dangerous. You may have been told you were the problem, that you were unstable, absent, selfish, or toxic. But here's the truth. Loving your child does not make you unstable. Wanting to be present does not make you controlling. Setting boundaries does not make you abusive. You were not erased because you failed. You were erased because you refused to serve a lie. The system likely didn't help. The court may have failed you. Therapists may have missed the signs. Friends may have quietly drifted away. Even your own child may now speak with words that were never theirs to begin with, but none of that defines your worth. You remain a parent. You remain tethered to the truth. And no campaign of gaslighting, guilt, or generational rewriting can ever change that. This book is not just a chronicle of loss. It is a roadmap of recognition. A signal flare in the dark, telling you, you are sane. You are not invisible, and you are not done. Because even if the door to your child seems closed right now, your integrity keeps it from being locked forever. So, protect your peace, guard your truth, document your journey, and remember, sleight of mind can distort reality, but cannot destroy love. Keep showing up, even when you're pushed out. Y, keep speaking calmly, even when you're shouted do. WN, keep believing in reunification, even when it feels impossible. Why? Because the greatest illusion the alienator ever created was the belief that you don't matter in him. And the greatest rebellion is proving them WR. How does a targeted parent, or any victim, accurately measure the degree of alienation they're enduring? While every situation is unique, certain patterns are unmistakable. In the case of our subject, John, several clear indicators can be identified that illustrate the emotional and relational distance imposed by prolonged alienation. One of the earliest and most painful signs of alienation is a gradual erosion of empathy from one's children. In John's life, this emotional void became glaringly obvious in subtle but telling ways. Greeting cards, once personal and thoughtful, are now generic or completely absent. 95% of the time, there is no acknowledgement of birthdays, holidays, or Father's Day. Photographs that once came in frames or albums are now self-produced by John himself, snapped on his phone, printed via apps like Snapshots, and displayed only in his home. He is no longer included in shared family memories. Gift giving has completely ceased. Not even small tokens of thoughtfulness mark special days. There are no visits from the children, not for birthdays, holidays, or even casual weekends. No invitations are extended to John. He is omitted from celebrations, milestones, and family gatherings. No inquiries are made about his health, well-being, or daily life. His presence is neither missed nor acknowledged. These signs aren't simply about etiquette or oversight. They reflect a deeper loss of emotional reciprocity and basic human regard. Parental alienation is a psychological process, and the road to reconciliation, if it ever comes, is long and uncertain. Research and clinical experts suggest that the average time for reconnection between an alienated parent and their children is approximately 10 years. In John's case, the situation is complicated by age. Now in his early 70s, he faces a harsh reality that time may not be on his side. Each passing year makes the prospect of genuine reconciliation less likely. When alienation spans decades, lost time cannot simply be recaptured. It must be grieved. One of the most profound casualties of alienation is trust. It erodes slowly at first. One misunderstanding, one unanswered message, one misrepresented conversation at a time. Eventually, the cumulative effect renders relationships nearly unrecognizable. For John, that trust is not merely damaged, it's shattered. He knows, deep down, that the children he once held in his arms were emotionally turned against him by calculated distortions. By a campaign that was quiet, sustained, and strategic. That kind of betrayal, particularly when reinforced by silence or complicity, leaves scars that are unlikely to heal. In cases like John's, trust may never be restored, even if contact resumes. Forgiveness may be possible, but rebuilding a foundation of honesty and mutual respect may not. Victims of alienation must make difficult, often heartbreaking, decisions about their future, decisions that most people naturally rely on family to help make. But when those family members are estranged or aligned with a narcissistic figure, relying on them can be emotionally and legally dangerous. John, like many targeted parents, must face the following realities. Medical advocacy may need to come from a trusted friend, professional caregiver, or neutral third party, not a child who has been conditioned to see him as undeserving. Living wills, power of attorney, and end-of-life care decisions must be established with individuals who genuinely respect his wishes and autonomy. Even his obituary may need to be pre-written, or at least guided by someone outside the immediate family, to avoid erasure or revisionist portrayals of his life. To put it bluntly, alienated parents should not expect dignity from those who deny their humanity. Planning ahead is not pessimism, it's protection. For alienated parents like John, the concept of reconciliation is often imagined as a tearful reunion, a moment of epiphany in which the adult child suddenly realizes the truth and reaches out in regret. While this version makes a compelling cinema, real-life reconciliation, if it comes at all, is far messier, slower, and emotionally ambiguous. The myth of the magical reunion. Many alienated parents carry a quiet hope that one day their child will snap out of it, wake up to manipulation, see the lies for what they were, and come rushing back. But decades of estrangement and indoctrination don't unravel in a single moment. If reconciliation occurs, it may begin with a brief message, a birthday text, an email asking for medical history, or even a neutral comment on social media. A chance encounter, often awkward, filled with politeness but absent of warmth. A crisis that forces temporary contact, such as a funeral, illness, or financial emergency. In these moments, the targeted parent must suppress both overwhelming emotion and a desire for immediate clarity. Pushing too hard, asking for explanations, or demanding apologies can push the child away again. True reconciliation doesn't mean returning to how things once were. It means building a new relationship, brick by brick, on unfamiliar ground. For this to happen, several conditions must be met. The child must be emotionally safe enough to question the past. This means being out of the alienating parent's influence, geographically, financially, or psychologically. The targeted parent must be emotionally prepared to listen without blame, validate the child's feelings, and gently offer their own truth, without anger or guilt-tripping. A neutral party, such as a therapist or counselor, can often act as a bridge, especially when communication is tentative or emotionally charged. Reconnection is not a guarantee, it's an invitation, one that may never be accepted. It's important for targeted parents to distinguish between reconciliation and redemption. Reconciliation depends on the child. Redemption, however, belongs solely to the alienated parent. Redemption means living your truth, even if no one else validates it. Documenting your story, not to convince your child, but to preserve your dignity. Showing consistency, patience, and emotional strength, even when no one is watching. For John and others like him, the healing journey may not include a reunion. But that doesn't mean there's no value in the journey itself. Love doesn't end because it isn't returned, and dignity isn't diminished by someone else's denial of it.